Is Tennessee out? The committee historically basically says don't get blown out. Now, I didn't have that game on and watching it intently, but it was 27-6, and Tennessee scored a fourth quarter touchdown to make it 27-13. That was the final. Is Tennessee out?
I don't think that's a blowout.
Yeah, it was bordering on it.
I mean, they scored their touchdown, and there were still, let's see, when they scored it, there were 4.5 minutes to go, or 4:15 to go.
Michigan and Ohio State both had, I don't even want to call them sluggish first halves, but they both were in dogfights in the first half. Michigan just exploded in the third quarter and ended up blowing out Rutgers. Ohio State eventually put away Northwestern. Do you think those teams' rankings when they come out tomorrow night will reflect anything that happened Saturday?
I think here's the problem for Tennessee. The problem for Tennessee is that they don't have any opportunities to really improve themselves. They got Missouri, South Carolina, and Vanderbilt.
Yep.
So, and they're not playing for an SEC championship. So I do think they're on the outside looking in.
Yep.
I think the situation with Michigan and Ohio State, if both teams stay unbeaten until the end of the season when they match up, you know, Gary Danielson talked about this on Friday with Stoney and Jansen, and he said, you know, Michigan's got an opportunity, and so does Ohio State because they play each other at the end of the year every year. But this is a lot like 2006, and that epic, was it 42-39 game?
Yep.
Incredible game. Wow, was it entertaining. You know, unfortunate for Michigan and their fans, they didn't get the done, but it was a great game. Had they had the college football playoff then, I think that Michigan would have been in the college football playoff because it was 1 versus 2, right?
Yep. Yep.
So you'd have 1 versus 4 or 1 versus 3. I mean, they would have been in there. This is a similar situation the way it's setting up right now because Alabama has 2 losses. Because Tennessee, they lost by 2 touchdowns to a team in their division, and they have no chance to make up for it by beating somebody that's ranked. I don't think Tennessee has a chance. Georgia, they hold all the cards here. They're undefeated, and I'm not sure who they play the rest of the way, but they'll have an SEC championship game. And is Georgia in a similar situation where if they lose the SEC championship game, they have Mississippi State, Kentucky, and Georgia Tech. It's kind of easy going for them too. If they match up, if let's say Georgia plays LSU, and LSU beats Georgia in the SEC championship game, does a 2-loss LSU team get to the playoff? And does a 1-loss Georgia team who lost in the SEC championship to a team that has 2 losses? It's going to be interesting how things could really.
Okay, let's say Georgia wins out, okay?
Be chaotic here.
Which is probably what people expect to happen,
Yeah.
right? Georgia wins out, they're in. Michigan Ohio State winner is in.
Yes. TCU
is in. And then the debate comes down to, Clemson might be out. Because Clemson, I don't think, has a chance to really improve their record. And they got more blown out than Tennessee did. So Clemson might be out. And you could be looking at the possibility. I'll tell you who's looming, but would Oregon, if Oregon wins the Pac-12, they got blown out by Georgia. Would they ever match them up in the first round of the playoff again? I doubt it.
Well, would Tennessee? The problem was it was blown. It's 49-3.
Yes. Would they match up Tennessee with Georgia again? I would argue no.
Well,
would the 1-loss Michigan Ohio State loser get that 4 seed? And if it's Michigan, would they consider Michigan and Georgia a rematch that they don't want to see because of last year? Or is that shouldn't have any bearing?
Here's what helps Oregon is that they face number 14 Utah in a couple weeks. And after that, they play, right now, Oregon State is ranked at 23.
Mm-hmm.
Then they'll play a Pac-12 championship game. And if they play against USC, it doesn't matter who they play, USC, UCLA. Let's say it's USC, although both USC and UCLA have identical 8-1 records right now. That'd be another opportunity to take care of another ranked team, let alone to be a top 10 team. Oregon has a path. I think they do. I think because of the like. If I were on the committee, I would say, okay, let's look at how they've grown. All right, it's a bad loss to start the season, but it was to start the season. It's not in the middle of the year. It's not towards the end when things really get punitive. If you don't show up, you're screwed. See Tennessee. So I think Oregon has a real chance there. But it's interesting. It's chaotic. It's set up for chaos at the end here to see who gets in. There would be unquestioned two teams that belong there. Probably Georgia and probably winner of Michigan, Ohio State. Outside of that, I don't know what you do.
A lot could go down. I think that the Big Ten is actually set up to potentially be the team that gets the conference that gets 2 in. But my guess is they still need a little help. They still need either a weak Pac-12 champion, some losses mixed in the Pac-12, or TCU to lose a game. Something that, they don't want LSU. They don't want LSU to win the SEC because LSU could get in as a 2-loss team.
No, but here's who could mess things up too, or add to the intrigue is Ole Miss. Yep. Here's Alabama licking their wounds from losing to LSU, and now they got to travel to the Grove and take on Ole Miss. Ole Miss is 8-1. Their only loss is to LSU. If they end up beating Alabama, then they end up winning the SEC West more than likely because they finish up with Arkansas and Mississippi State.
I don't think you should overlook Arkansas.
I'm just saying. They're unranked right now.
Arkansas is hosting LSU this weekend, right?
I believe so. So
I early read, I like Arkansas plus the points. I don't even know what the spread is.
But it could set up for a one-loss Ole Miss team taking on Georgia.
Yeah.
So if that one loss, Georgia's got to win out. But if you really want chaos, have Georgia lose the SEC championship game.
Yeah, I think Michigan fans, you're still rooting for some chaos. But obviously, you're rooting for your team to beat Ohio State, win the Big Ten. If your team, if the loser of Michigan, Ohio State to get into the playoff, I think still probably needs a little bit of help.
If it's close,
if it's as good as the last one versus the Michigan Ohio State game when they were undefeated,
yeah, then they're both in. They should both be in. Yeah, I think the case to be made. Let's say Michigan wins, and they win a relatively close, like 1-score game. It's a touchdown, but it's one score. Michigan gets a touchdown at the end to win it. It's a harder case for Ohio State to say they belong there because they would have lost at home to the Michigan team. And Ohio State on the season, do they have any real resonating wins?
Notre Dame?
Yeah, to start the year. And they won by, a touchdown or two?
They won
21-14 or something? It was 21-10. Good memory. But other than that, they haven't beaten anybody. They beat Penn State a couple weeks ago. Or 10 days ago, but
it's a little bit of weight.
It holds a little bit.
Yeah.
We'll see if Penn State holds up and it ends up looking good. But that's it. And it's the same thing for Michigan. Michigan has beaten Penn State, but Michigan's just got to take care of business. They went out, they're in, obviously. But I think it's a better case for Michigan if they lose at Ohio State that they can get in than it is if Ohio State loses to Michigan to try to get in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I hear you.